Business, together with governments and civil society, must be an active and responsible stakeholder in addressing global problems.
He is reviled, feared, and dismissed.
Around 1/3 of the members are CEOs of multinational companies, 1/3 are leaders of international organizations and governments, and 1/3 are from civil society, forming a truly multi-stakeholder community.
In the dark corners of the internet, he's infamous. Among the most influential podcaster in the world, he is mocked.
The fact that he chose to leave his house dressed like that, like, yes, I will adjust the peons. All the public needs to know that we are in control. Look at he's got like that weird star on the right one and whatever the fuck it says on the left one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on his vest, like what is that thing on his vest? Is that the same thing? What is that symbol?
Who is Klaus Schwab? Where did he grow up? What are his intentions with the Great Reset? And how appropriate or hyperbolic are our trepidations toward the German economist? Good questions, but they miss the point. The real question we should be asking is this: does Klaus Schwab want to run the world? If so, what are his plans with us? In 1961, following in the footsteps of his father, Klaus graduated as a mechanical engineer from Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. A mechanical engineer creates machines that run off of power, a wind turbine or combustible engine or nuclear weapons. This is fitting, as the man obsessed with power has a degree in managing and maintaining the industrial means which create it. Perhaps the most notable book by Schwab is The Fourth Industrial Revolution. The outline of the book reads, quote, "Characterized by new technologies, the Fourth Industrial Revolution will impact all disciplines, and it will do so at an unprecedented rate. World Economic Forum data predicts that by 2025, we will see commercial use of nanoparticles 200 times stronger than steel and 1,000,000 times thinner than human hair, the first transplant of a 3D printed liver, 10% of all cars on U.S. roads being driverless, and much more." The political scientist Klaus Gerd Giesen has argued that the dominant ideology of the Fourth Industrial Revolution is transhumanism, a philosophical and political movement which advocates for a kind of merging between man and machine.
You can search the web with real and organic search results and do it without anyone tracking your activity or data. We ourselves use Atlas VPN to protect our data online. Atlas VPN is more than just any other VPN. It blocks all malicious links, ads, and trackers, and notifies you when someone is trying to spy on or steal your data. If you want to grab Atlas VPN, they have a great deal going on right now for just $1.70 a month and 6 months extra for free. We've provided a link in the description you can use to grab this deal. Try it out with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Not only does it protect your data, it also keeps your searches completely private. Also, protect unlimited devices at once. No limits are set. One subscription only for the best price. That's why we use Atlas. Oh, did we forget to mention it saves you a lot of money booking online? It's that easy. Grab Atlas VPN using the link in the description and secure your data today.
The list of academic and national achievements Klaus has won is endless. The elites truly do regard Klaus Schwab as one of the most important influences in the world. His list of national distinctions sounds like a who's who of Masonic organizations. Klaus has received the Commander's Cross of the National Order of Merit of Germany, the Knight of the Legion of France, the Golden Grand Cross of the National Order of Austria, the National Order of the Republic of Poland. He's received honors in Kazakhstan, Africa, Poland, Bulgaria, Jordan, Germany, Japan, and China. Klaus often uses this term global leaders or global shapers when referencing those who are on the board of the World Economic Forum. The main difference being that global leaders are 20 to 30 years old and global shapers are 30 to 40 years old. Among those who work for the World Economic Forum are Tulsi Gabbard, Dan Crenshaw, Mark Zuckerberg, Alexander Soros, David de Rothschild, Megan Rapinoe, Emmanuel Macron, and Pete Buttigieg. The following research was conducted by a Polish website, translated as werevealhidden.com. Looking at this photo of Klaus Schwab, you'll notice that his robe and the podium he's at are adorned with occult symbols. Observing the photo, you'll notice a 9-pointed star on his clothes and podium. Only one religion uses the 9-pointed star, and that's the new religion called Baha'i. A unity religion birthed out of Persia during the 19th century, promoting the notion that all religions are equally good and true. Baha'i also uses an 8-pointed star, which they spread across their churches throughout the world. Infamously placed in Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, another 8-pointed star, the Star of Ishtar, is an ancient Babylonian symbol. The Star of Ishtar was normally enclosed within a circular disc. The circle inside, and the 8 to 9-pointed star which surrounds it, is the key to focus on here. Because the question becomes, why is Schwab seemingly wearing an ancient Babylonian symbol? Ishtar is the Mesopotamian goddess of fertility, lust, war, political power, and pleasure, and is historically associated with the planet Venus, the planet most firmly aligned with pleasure in many ancient astrological systems of occult magic. Also known as octograms, 8-pointed stars are ancient symbols that were used by many cultures for various purposes throughout history. This includes Hindus, Buddhists, Chinese people, Babylonians, Muslims, Christians, even neo-pagans and Wiccans. While it's possible Klaus is adorning this star in the Abrahamic sense, I doubt this, as the proclivity of the elite toward pursuing the occult is simply too large a pattern to dismiss. The bull could be a couple of things. One is an homage to the sacred bull Baal, an ancient Canaanite god of child sacrifice, the likes of which are mired deeply within the elite. Another possibility is that the bull symbolizes the pagan religion Mithraism. Mitra is also known as Sol Invictus or Ra, the invisible sun god. On closer inspection, the icon of the banner of the podium in front of Professor Schwab contains the Latin inscription Scientia Ingenium Virtus, meaning knowledge of immense power. This is Gnosticism, a cult belief that knowledge leads to enlightenment and eternal life. Klaus Schwab is a transhumanist who said, quote, "The end of the fourth industrial revolution will lead to the fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identities." By any sane metric, I hope this video easily outlines the truth that Klaus Schwab is a Babylonian occultist, which means, at least by implication, that Tulsi Gabbard and Dan Crenshaw, two individuals who are often liked by the right wing, are almost certainly cut from the same cloth. I urge you to think about this the next time Tulsi Gabbard says something that appeals to you, or Dan Crenshaw by the same token. With the way the world is right now, many are considering this pale blue dot to undoubtedly be on its last legs.
Road, yep. Get on the road. Come on. Well, it's coming to grips with the idea that the fire season is now year-round, that it is burning in places typically at woodlands and wetlands, in tundra areas, and high-elevation alpine Rockies.
Are global catastrophes and civil unrest on the rise? Or is the media warping our collective perception?
I am Don Lemon. Here's our breaking news. New numbers as this spreads. More than 160,000 cases in the United States. Over 2,980 deaths.
I opt for the former. While it's true the media manipulation plays a powerful role in shaping public opinion, a bit of science from intelligence company Maplecroft indicate that over 100 countries have seen a rapid increase in societal breakdown.
Grenades are being fired in the capital. Demonstrators were out on the streets showing their anger at delayed elections.
But even if we were to ignore this data point, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that in many areas of the world, several events seem to be creating a kind of biblical atmosphere of the end time.
You may have seen that dramatic video of hundreds of birds literally falling from the sky into a neighborhood. What on earth was going on?
Guys, what is going on?
Strange sounds are being heard around the world.
This rise in civil unrest parallels rising inflation.
Well, everything from food to clothing, even cars, all costing more in the Inland Empire as inflation soars.
Inflation is surging even higher there than here in LA and Orange County.
Pair this with spiking mortgages, global increases in shipping rates. But at least the stock market is okay.
The stock market has done better during Joe Biden's first 100 days than during any president's first 100 days in the last 75 years.
One has yet to even mention the war in Ukraine, which continues amidst growing pressure between NATO and its enemies, Russia and China. Combine all of this with the growing influence of evil elites, many of whom have decided to come out of the shadows, and you've got yourself what many would call the Great Reset, which, in the way that I define it, does not simply cover the Davos Group's stated intent of creating a, quote, better world, but runs parallel to a coming rebirth of society. This is a very big deal, the implications of which are so vast and incalculable, one flinches to wonder what should happen if we fail to comprehend and defeat it. The Great Reset is real. It is happening now, and contrary to what the adversary wants us to believe, everything is going to be okay. As all truths are, the truth of the Great Reset is hard to pin down. The salient point to take from all of these seemingly apocalyptic examples are its counterpoints, all of which must exist, as evil can only find itself in its own illusion and lies. Those who created the term Great Reset reside within the gates of the World Economic Forum.
Thank you, Angelic and Amen, for this musical opening of the meeting.
They describe the term as a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world to create a healthier, more equitable, and more prosperous future. You know, I always get a bit nervous when an organization as powerful as the WEF summarizes themselves in such a vague and empty way. I mean, what exactly does that mean? What are your methods for gaining such a world? Such a world, such a world. The Great Reset is many things. It's a conspiracy theory. It's a group of rich people trying to get richer. It's a powerhouse of economists and billionaires. It's a group of wealthy elites whose intent, in my view, is to purposefully enact change in the world so as to benefit the billionaire class and take advantage of the decent, hard-working masses. So how do we stop this? Is it even possible to stop this? I think the answer is yes. Because through him, all things are good. And because they are good, they are possible. If we want to see positive changes take place in the world, we have to change ourselves. It sounds like a Hallmark card, yet it's a fact about the universe. And although it can seem facile on the surface, as though we're dismissing the evil we're up against by solely focusing on self-help, it's important to understand that that is fallacious, because the reality is we should be attempting to defeat our elitist enemies by improving ourselves. We have to empower ourselves in this war, because it is a war. If we spend our time reflecting solely on the problem, we become the problem. This is the mental interplay of our minds, the nature of which we believe is being held hostage by ruling elites, but is actually free and abundant all on its own. The phenomenon of QAnon is a strange one, but it got one thing right. There are good people in this world who serve God and work for the elite. Because the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing us that he does exist. He exists for us, that's for sure. But he is a fabrication to God, an illusion, so weak in scale, God permits its existence to us. The enemy perverts everything that is good. This means if you find bad in it, it must be good. This is a difficult Christian teaching, but it's fundamental to understanding the nature of life here on earth. The way we defeat the Great Reset is by improving our relationship with God. If you're an atheist, maybe spending time volunteering or participating in charities that suit your preferences. Either way, every act of good is vital toward achieving a better understanding of ourselves, our family and friends, and the world around us. It's only through positive action that the will of the people can finally express itself collectively. The way to defeat the Great Reset is through mass protests, 1 billion people strong, across the entire planet. This can occur. This can happen. Protests are occurring on a much smaller scale already nationwide. These are the actions which can empower us to enact real change in the world. The smallest step is the biggest one in the eyes of God.
Do you believe in God? Difficult to answer. I know. I don't need to believe. I know.
Who exactly is this George Soros guy? We hear about him all the time, but the way in which we hear of Soros is in a rather empty and indeterminate way. Soros is mentioned perpetually by conservatives, QAnon folk, 8chan forums, yet we rarely, if ever, get the details regarding the man. It doesn't make you right-wing to be against the elite. Partisanship ruins critical thinking because it makes us defend our side when they may not deserve it. For example, former Republican foreign policy advisor for Sarah Palin, Randy Schuneman, accepted generous donations from George Soros. The funds centered on legislation promoting democracy in Burma, a country that was once ruled by a communist dictatorship. But how could this be? I thought Soros was a communist. Why is he donating to Republicans? During my research, I discovered Soros having financed several dissident political groups in Eastern and Central Europe. These political factions were fighting against communism, and the Vatican funded many of these groups in an effort to help them. Another person who helped was the Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros. I'll say that again. George Soros effectively funded the end of communism for Eastern and Central Europe. In 1989, Poland defeated communism. They were able to do so primarily through a group who referred to themselves as Solidarity. The leader of the group, Lech Walesa, received the Nobel Peace Prize, and Solidarity is widely recognized as playing a central role toward ending communist rule in Poland. Okay, now, George Soros funded Solidarity through his Open Society Foundation. Soros was instrumental in the destruction of the Berlin Wall. Yet another example of Soros destroying communism. The strange truth here is that Soros has moved several European countries away from far-left state authoritarianism. This is perplexing because on one hand, Soros is the embodiment of top-down totalitarian control, and on the other, he isn't. What's going on here? Soros defines an open society as that which protects the right of the individual, and a closed society as that which protects the right of the state. This is ironic, because while it's true that Soros has directly influenced the end of communism around the Western world, it's also true that he funds tyrannical institutions, Black Lives Matter, for instance. Soros is a proponent of equity and social justice movements, which should alarm anyone interested in remaining free. How are we to make sense of this then? I'm not sure exactly, but I'm left wanting more from most of the analysis from conservatives regarding the evil that is George Soros. The context of Soros funding movements directly involved with ending communism is important, as it helps to widen our scope of knowledge regarding the billionaire. Knowing your enemy is far more important than turning them into a caricature. With this understanding in mind, let's dive into why we should still fear the influence of Soros, regardless of the prior nuance, by asking the following question: what is George Soros funding right now? And how should we guard against it? George Soros said the following: Vladimir Putin's dream of a renewed Russian empire will disintegrate and cease to pose a threat to Europe, and the world will be able to focus on its biggest problem: climate change. One of the pillars of the Great Reset is to use climate change as a vehicle for global control. If you doubt this, please listen to the following facts and statistics. They should convince you. But first, during his remarks delivered at the 2022 World Economic Forum in Davos, Soros said, quote, 19 helped legitimize instruments of control. Soros is showing us his authoritarian cards here by mentioning his desire to use events for controlling society. And one of these apparent events is climate change, which I would define as a kind of modern scientific ideology, largely based on a myriad of public and private research for the use of protecting the environment and ensuring the survival of humanity. I definitely want to live in a world with cleaner air, less pollution, and rely on smarter forms of energy. My fear comes from George Soros, who wants to use climate to rule the world. But how exactly does he do this? Through the use of different powerful techniques, Soros confuses the masses into slowly giving up their rights for an alleged greater good. Soros is able to drum up fear among the population by bribing politicians or preventing honest debates over the climate on mainstream media, by censoring dissident scientists who disagree with the prevailing narrative. This is where his money goes. A 2021 poll conducted by the BBC claimed that nearly 60% of young people felt very worried or extremely worried about climate change. 60%. 2/3 reported feeling sad, afraid, and anxious. Many felt fear, anger, despair, even shame at the idea that they're causing the end of the world. Alarmist statements from media and politicians help to exacerbate these fears among the public.
Climate change and our environmental challenges are one of the biggest existential threats to our way of life.
It's key to understand that these fears are purposefully funded by the likes of George Soros. The social fear of climate change is George Soros's currency. We can easily see this within the generation of millennials and Gen Z, many of which are now publicly disavowing having children out of fear their offspring will die from climate change. Polls suggest that 1/3 or more of Americans younger than 45 either do not have children or expect to have fewer because of climate change. Proponents of climate change claim the science is settled, but there are scientists and organizations that disagree. The non-governmental International Panel on Climate Change shows the other side of the debate, claiming that because they are wholly independent of political pressures and influences, they're essentially untethered from political bias. The NIPCC has produced 14 reports to date, asserting that nature, not human activity, rules the climate, outlining disagreements between scientists and claiming to debunk the sea level rise hypothesis of the early 2000s. So the ends Soros is pushing is made complicated by a populace that works together and thinks critically. I'm convinced we can do this. The option remains, however, that we do not learn from any of this information, that we view these videos from solely an angle of entertainment, rather than a stark warning to enact widespread societal change. Our darkest fears about this incoming tyranny can come true, being forced into life conditions, the likes of which we can't even imagine. A world not merely influenced by evil, but dominated by it.